Welcome to the Bible Forum. I am Warren Sprouse. You are here. It's July 29, 2018. And a U.S. District Court in Oregon has ordered parents who object to their girls and boys showering together in Oregon public schools to take their children out of that school if they don't like it. His name is Marco Hernandez. He's a liberal, and it's all about the transgender issue. In his mind, just because a boy looks like a boy doesn't mean he's actually a boy. And the converse is true where girls are concerned. So, when showering after gym, these boys don't feel comfortable being naked around, boys. They're more comfortable being naked around girls. Girls who are more like they are. I just read it. I don't believe it. I know it sounds bizarre. It does to me. I'm sure it does to you. But to this judge, it somehow makes perfect sense. Welcome to Bizarro World. So parents have the right now to remove their children from the school if they don't like any of this. Put me down. However, if the parent does that, they're going to still have to pay their local public school and whatever private school they choose to send the child to. But trust me, folks, that's the way it's always been. Charter schools are the only avenue we have for anything uniquely different. Parents who have their children in private schools are paying the taxes, and they're paying the tuition for the school. That's the commitment they're making to the future of their child, both academically and morally. Here we have a state, Oregon in this case, speaking on behalf of the federal government. He's a district court judge mandating a completely untenable, unworkable, and dangerous situation. So you think dissenting parents would have some rights, but you would be wrong. Well, at least in Oregon and in California and in Washington and probably through the northern northeast states. Every other liberal-minded state, or at least one run by liberal-minded people. Now the judge ruled, he says, it is within a parent plaintiff's right to remove their children from the Dallas, Oregon high school if they disapprove of transgender students accessing the facilities. However, once the parents have chosen to send their children to school, their liberty interest in their children's education is severely diminished. That means when they walk into the public school, public means you pay for it. When you walk into this school, your rights as a parent end. Now, is that shocking to you? It's only been that way for the last 60 years. In subtle ways, and some cases not so subtle. We call these public schools, but these public schools limit the public to having no rights, no say-so, no options when it comes to how they treat these children or how they educate them. And I say, doesn't that make them a government school? Of course it does. Now, this ruling of this judge conflicts with President Trump's rescinding of an Obama administration guidance letter directing schools that want to continue to receive federal funding to let transgender students use facilities that correspond to their gender identity. Now, it may be this judge didn't get that memo. I think he might in the future. But Judge Hernandez, who was appointed by Obama, rejected the claims of the parents for privacy. It's a case brought by both parents and students, as well as the advocate organization called Parents' Rights in Education. It was directed at this Dallas School District number 2 in the Oregon Department of Education. Pretty broad. It seems the underlying foundation for the argument for opening gender-specific facilities to public schools is a new interpretation of a 1972 law, Title IX law, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any federally funded education program or activity. Now, the Obama administration insisted that Congress meant gender identity when it used the term sex. 1972? I doubt it. The judge defined sex as processes that lead to or denote male or female, as opposed to biology or physiology. He said this characteristic is assigned at birth. Now, one wonders just where he received this science degree that he is throwing around, that he knows all this stuff that nobody else knew for the last 5,000 years. Apparently, how a person is designed has no significant bearing on what gender they may be, in this judge's and apparently the Obama administration's thinking. That would be news to any human being prior to the 21st century. It would be outrageous, shocking. It would be a cause for having this judge and anybody else that thinks this way investigated by a psychiatrist. One can only wonder what emotional, psychological, and physical effect cavorting with teenagers of the opposite gender in a shower, presumably without adult supervision, would have on the physiology of these girls who strongly resemble boys. He instructed all parents that, quote, once the parents have chosen to send their children to school, their liberty interest in the children's education is gone. This same judge had previously allowed a claim for loss of companionship in a pet case. He thought it should go to trial. Insanity takes a lot of different forms, it seems. And all this happens when human beings are free to be creative. Creative with life, creative with definitions, creative with objective reality, and still be considered sane. For the first 6,000 years of human history, this sort of thing didn't happen unless you went into an asylum. The vast majority of parents thought, wrongly it now seems, that they were responsible to train up that child in the way they should go. I know, that's part of a Bible verse. But isn't that the way parenting worked before all this sexual freedom and all the rest of it? The parents would send their children to the school. The school would be paid for by the parents, and the parents would have a vested interest in how it was run and what it taught and how it worked. And if they didn't like something, they could have a meeting and that could be changed. Not now. There is a great deal of variety in how parents defined the word should in these cases, but generally that meant boys were boys and girls were girls. And the plumbing pretty much made it real. And that putting them together as teenagers in a naked environment was a recipe for disaster. But apparently people have changed. Morality has changed. Sociology has changed. Today it's not like that. In fact, that kind of thinking is now taboo. One day it may actually be judged insanity. Today it just labels people like me and maybe you as a bigot, or at least uninformed, or maybe an uneducated cow. So the question is, how's all that working out? Is the family structure still strong? Oh wait, family is now being defined about 12 different ways, just like gender. What else has had to change in all of this? Well, the answer is just about every social standard and issue you can think about. On the job, in the military, in schools, on the playground. Have you seen the guys who identify as girls wrestling in high school? They wrestle real girls who are nowhere near as equipped to compete with these men, these boys. The result is the transgender wrestler wins every time. Where's that going? And don't forget female pastors. I know, not in real churches, thank you very much. Not in biblical churches. Because the Bible forbids it. But then we have to decide which Bible we're talking about, don't we? I'm told there are over 900 of them, different versions. This is the way of the world, here at the end of the age. A time when nothing is absolutely what it seems, or what it was, or what it used to mean to be. Nothing is absolute except the presumption that those who reject natural law and biblical principle are the ones who are absolutely right about what they believe, and the rest of you are just wrong. And one day, you'll realize that. Before that, you'll pay for it dearly.